Good morning, everybody. This is Diggs. It's a terrible day out here in the Pacific Northwest. For those of you that have watched me for a long time, you will know the only time I say it's terrible is when wildfire smoke is everywhere, the sky is blood red, and I hate breathing in this. So it is a terrible day out here in the Pacific Northwest. But today, we are going to be talking about Kuni server merges, server transfers, and what I really think about it. Because I do think we need some type of server merge, server transfer right now. Let's go ahead and dig in. So first off, I think I just want to say that I would rather have server transfers than server merges. I would rather have paid server transfers, or free server transfers would even be better. But I would rather have a server transfer system than a server merge system, because at least with server transfers, you can control what servers are going to be merged together or that you want to go to. Every server can kind of have a separate identity if you have server transfer. And through having the server transfer process, you do kind of get servers with certain specialties in place. Now, a great example of this for any of you who have played the OG Final Fantasy XI, they introduced server transfers a long time ago. And over the course of the years, you have multiple servers that kind of serve different functions. For example, Bahamut was quite commonly known as the JP server. That was where most of the JP server players played. You had Ashura, which is where a lot of the hardcore kind of Final Fantasy XI players all went, because there was so few people playing the game that they needed to congregate in order to work together. You had other servers that were pretty much dead, but there are some players who like to play in those quiet and dead areas. And especially considering Ni no Kuni has familiar arena ranking, which is server wide, considering it has rankings for events like the Witch's Cooking event right now, it makes sense that you would want all of the servers to remain open and to have kind of special servers, or, naturally, I say naturally, but kind of slowly gravitate towards certain things. And I think that is what would happen. I think what would turn out is you would have a dominant kingdom on almost every single server, and then you would kind of have different identities. So, for example, you have Jade Gemini, which is very focused on feet, right? You have Jade Taurus, that's very focused on frogs, right? And I'm memeing right now, but that is kind of an example of how different servers have different identities. You have Onyx Cancer, which is a very toxic server, right? We have very toxic PvP all over the place non-stop, right? Like there is these identities to the servers that have slowly been generating. I've heard Onyx Ares is a very PvP centered server as well, but I also know Onyx Ares is a very involved server. They do a lot of things in the community, right? So there is a whole host of kind of different server identities that are already starting to emerge. And I'm really curious to see how that would continue with server transfer. I think server transfers would enable people like me who are running a casual guild, right? I would be able to server transfer to a guild where, casual guilds and casual players can go and play. It's going to be a server known for casual play. Maybe not necessarily competitive play. There'll be less PKing there. New players can go there so that you can foster and grow your guild. Because right now, when a new player is looking to join the game or play the game, like I wholeheartedly can't recommend to them our server, right? Like I'm like, don't go to Onyx Cancer. You're going to get freaking PK'd out of nowhere, right? Like that's just what they do on our server. And it's just the way that this server operates. So, for me, when I'm looking at things like that, and I think about server transfer and I think about server merges, I think server transfers would be a lot better. Particularly if we start to see server merges, I would be concerned about which kingdoms and which servers are going to be merged. You look at maybe a situation where two of the strongest kingdoms, for example, I'm not even sure if Elegy is the strongest anymore. I'm not sure which kingdom is in the lead, but like Korea, Elegy, Light, all of a sudden they're all on the same server. And, that would just be, it would probably be fun in a different aspect, but I'm sure there would be a lot of PKing. I'm sure there would just be a rampant bloodbath between all of them, right? Because the way the server merge is, you don't really have a choice, right? You're just shoving people together. So a lot of ways, I'm hoping there's not server merges. I'm hoping there's just server transfers. You could have both. I would be okay with both. I know Thin Bear, for those of you who are familiar with him, has talked in our Discord about how he has transferred multiple times with his guild. So his guild had server transferred multiple times, trying to find a server essentially that was, you know, not going to be as toxic as the one they were on. So I can see things like that happening. And I think overall that would create a better experience. Now, I think there is an aspect of this that would also somewhat create a negative experience, in that it would give sort of bad players, or players that PK a lot or are really toxic, an opportunity to transfer servers, to change names. You know, players that hack right now that are like known hackers, you know, it would be easy for them to transfer and reset everything. So there is definitely some bad things about server transfer, but I think overall the good things do for the most part outweigh the bad. And I do think, you know, being able to, you know, keep as many servers open as possible, one, for familiar arena rankings, right? Because the more servers you have open, the more people will be able to rank in familiar arena. So maybe you're someone who doesn't want to do top tier content, but you want to rank for Asterite and familiar arena. You have a strong enough team, you can get in the top 30. That's great. You know, stay on a quieter server. You know, you can also potentially competitively compete, right? You can look at where all the top guilds are. You can look at, you know, Onyx Cancer, you know, you're never going to place in top 10, right? Because we have one of the strongest guilds on our server. So maybe you want to look at joining another server. So there's just so many things and so many reasons, I think, right now, for server transfers to exist. And I think we desperately need them, because you have communities in Ni no Kuni that are extremely fragmented. It feels like you know, as the game has gone on and as a lot of players have either quit, come back, or returned, or formed a new community, you have a lot of communities that are unable to continue growing because new players either aren't playing the game, they aren't distributed in a way that is going to help the servers grow. And so I think overall, having server transfers will helpfully build up not only new players, because they're gonna kind of have a good idea of a place to go, right? Because of course I'm going to make a video that's like, hey, you should go to this server, which is probably a good video that I should make right now. Like, if I were thinking of servers to go to right now off the top of my head, I mean, honestly, I would probably go to Jade Gemini or Jade Taurus, are the two that I've heard are really good. In terms of NA, those are the two that I've heard. I've heard Jade Gemini has people that don't shut up a lot, but I haven't heard about like rampant PKing, non-stop murdering, but I'm sure there's some of that on every server depending on who you are and what you're doing. But I just think it's time. We need it. We need to build up the community. We need to bring people together, and we kind of need to give different servers identities. Anyway, everybody, let me know what you think. If you think you have a good server for new players to join, please put it down in the description down below and say why. Put it in the comments, because I would love to do a video for all the different regions on what server is a good server for new players. Like, for sure, Onyx Cancer, I'm never going to advocate. Even though I'm on this server, we're pretty, you know, mostly chill. There's just a lot of rampant PK everywhere. So I would definitely recommend like Jade Gemini, Jade Taurus, or one of the newer servers that I don't even know the name of. So let me know down below in the comments, and I will catch you guys all later.